Last year, we finished off at 428, which is 16%, okay? Not too bad, okay? We'll get into 2023 in a second, but for a business in an industry where everyone was crying the blues and saying there's no more money to be made here, not too shabby. Okay?
Not bad. Not bad in any business, honestly, to have a profit of 428K is fantastic. I mean, that's $1 million+ business in almost any industry with the best possible profit margins you could expect. So that's terrific. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel. We're here to help you go further, faster financially. And we do that by sharing opportunities when we come across stuff that we really like and believe in. We do that when we teach you guys about managing leverage, where you can make investments that could pay off for you using other people's money and sort of the Kiyosaki approach to things, but also doing that while hating debt. I definitely believe in a lot of what Dave Ramsey teaches too. So there's this really cool hybrid between the topics that we share on this channel of how you can kind of get the best of both worlds and leave yourself as safe as possible while you build wealth. And one of the topics that we've shared on this channel consistently for the last several years is the Short-Term Rental Wealth Academy product by Michael and Katrina Stead. They're my guests today. Now, I know when you kind of come to a channel and you hear product, it might be a little bit discouraging and you may be even thinking about clicking off. And I can understand that. And this is going to be a longer form video today. I doubt we're going to get through everything I want to in just a short 10 or 15 minutes. So I recommend staying all the way to the end because there's going to be an amazing amount of content here on the channel that proves what Michael and Katrina have been saying now through the end of 2023, which was that they expected to make very close to $5 million doing exactly what they teach their students to do, which is to run a short-term rental property management business without using much, if any, of your own money. It takes very rarely should it require credit as well. So you don't have to come in and have this highly capital intensive expectation about building a business. This is truly being able to build a business, whether it be part-time or full-time. I literally just wrapped a phone call, a Zoom conversation that you can see as well. His name is Wilson Van Hook, and the guy is killing it, right? He's just wrapped his first full year in their program, and his top line revenues are right at $1 million, guys. He's at 26 units that he's currently under management of and in control of. And he's 27 years old, right? His goal by the halfway point of this year, 2024, is to retire from his full-time day job and work in that business full-time. Had a conversation just days ago with another coaching member of theirs, which will also be here on the channel too. If it's already published, we'll put it in the link below or in the description for you. And that couple is now breaking $1 million as well in their third year in business. So here we are. We've got example after example. We've got a lot of crossover with our coaching members. A ton of my coaching members have participated in your program successfully. And the fact is, not everybody is successful with it. And I kind of want to get to the bottom of what kind of drives the difference between people who are and are not successful. Wilson was gracious enough to kind of share his input just based on what he sees in some of your accountability meetings, because it is a community and you guys do work together. But ultimately, it's a fairly straightforward business. And I've said every time we have these calls together that if I lost everything, this is what I would be doing. And so I want to welcome you guys back to the channel and thank you for your willingness to just be transparent and kind of open up your books. I know that you guys are even planning on showing us evidence of your earnings because the money that you're talking about earning many millions of dollars at this point over the course of 2023 had nothing to do with selling a coaching system. This is inside your business as short-term rental property management hosts. And so thank you for coming back on, guys. I've really loved that you've proven me right for 3 years straight that you were the good people I suspected you were when I came across your Facebook post originally that led to me reaching out to you in October of whatever it was, 2021, 2020, October 2020, right? 2020.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. So yeah, welcome back to the channel. Thanks guys for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having us back, Matt. It's a pleasure to speak with your audience.
Yeah, it's exciting to come back on here, and you're 100% right. Like looking kind of behind the curtain, what's actually going on. And I mean, we love these videos because we just show how it is, right? And it's like take it or leave it. This is what it truly is to run a short-term rental business. the income, the expenses, what it actually looks like. And anyone coming into this can make that executive decision, being like, is this a right fit for me? And that's who we want to actually dig into that, take a look into that, see if it aligns with them. And that's who we want to work with for sure into our program.
And there's an easy step for doing that. We put an email together. It's called STR Wealth at VIPfinancialeducation.com. People, you can email your first name, last name, and contact phone number. My understanding is you guys have them fill out an intake form. You get a little bit of information about them, and then you have a conversation where you guys can get your questions answered. There's no pressure, no obligation, no hard sell. I've always loved that about you guys. You don't have this sort of slick snake oil BS that a lot of people do. And you're trying to disqualify people as much as they are potentially trying to disqualify themselves. That's been my observation of it anyhow. So guys, if you want to write that email address down, and if there's anything in this video that stands out to you or you want some clarification about, I absolutely recommend contacting them and getting more information. Go into the description below. We'll leave links to countless videos that can give you a couple hours worth of research ahead of that call, so that some of your answers may already be taken care of, and then decide whether or not the cost is worth it. They do charge for their time and their solution here, and they've been gracious enough to continue to discount the price of their program down to just under $10,000 for our audience. Got into great length of conversation with Wilson about the price of the program and what that really means, because on the front end, it seems expensive and it's hard to make an investment like that, especially if you're not used to investing and building businesses. But over time, if you gain experience with it, you start to realize that to not invest in something like that, especially if it has a track record of working, is far more expensive. It takes far longer to do the things you want to accomplish. So it is an investment with an actual return on the investment back to you. And that's the way you're going to need to look at it. But what you have to do, and what I'm hoping to at least get to a little bit today, is, are you the right fit? Because if you spend 10 grand and you're not the type of person that actually follows through on a system that has a proven record of working, then you're going to lose 10 grand and it won't be a good investment. Right. So you've got to understand how to pre-qualify yourself, try to listen to what everybody else has said, and determine whether or not you're willing to take those steps. But I honestly, it just boggles my mind to think that people aren't willing to spend 10 or 15 hours a week, even if they're doing things they don't necessarily like initially, to change their lives forever, to literally create a future of financial independence, to create a legacy for their kids. To me, that's a cop-out. You know, that's super, super soft. So, you know, because over time, you can delegate the stuff you don't like in your business away to other people. And it might require you to do some of it initially, but as you grow and you learn how to do it well, you can train someone else to do it. So let's go ahead and dive in, guys. I'm doing all the talking here. So you guys have been doing this now for roughly 4 years, right?
Five now.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
I lost a year. Okay. So 5 years.
Yeah, it's gone quick.
And so let's kind of just get right into the fun stuff, right? So you had a full-blown breakout year. 2023 was your best year yet. What was the end tally on your earnings in 2023?
Yeah, so we'll get to that in just a moment. But I mean, so just to kind of take you guys behind the curtain. So our business is comprised of a few different business entities. We have our main management business, and then we have a few other entities in which we own properties with partners, with other clients of ours. So we're going to be primarily focusing today just on our management business, okay? Just for full disclosure and transparency on everything. Yeah. But if you were to roll all of it up, not to embellish or anything, but I think I was a little over ambitious with the $5 million. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We're just shy of the 5 million.
So we didn't quite hit the 5 million this year.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about
our year end is in March, so we will by March, but not by the year end.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as of right now, we're in December 2023. So what we'll do is we'll pop open our screen here. We'll show you guys what we did last year, 2022. How we did this year, and then we'll give you a few examples of things that we've been working on recently, and just kind of tie it all together so it makes sense. So
sounds good.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna pop my screen open here. So here's our financials for 2022. Okay, now what I want to say is unique about this is the fact that most people in our industry, when they're talking about their quote unquote results, usually what they'll do is they'll show you their earnings screen on Airbnb and say, look how good I'm doing. So they show you the addition, but they don't really take you behind the curtain and show you the subtraction with how those numbers actually come together, right?
And part of it, when it shows they're just showing Airbnb, that's also kind of that red flag, in my opinion, because it's not an Airbnb business. It's a short-term rental management business, or it's a short-term rental business. So it's not just Airbnb. There's VRBO, Booking.com. You can see we have a line item for direct revenue. We have a line item for insurance claim bookings. Like, it is multifaceted. This is what something is big when we talk about this, what we coach and train on as well. It's not an Airbnb business. It's a tool, of course, that we utilize, but we also utilize direct insurance, midterm rentals. It's all encompassing, because that's the true business. Because if Airbnb went down tomorrow, would you have a business? So you got to kind of look into that way.
100%. Yeah. So I mean,
and it's not accounting for all the third-party costs involved as well, right? So it's not taking into consideration that you're paying.
We'll get into that.
Let's get into that.
We'll get into that. Yeah. So this is last year. We'll get to next year in just a moment here. Okay. But we did pretty well. Obviously, we made over $1 million on Airbnb in 2022. Direct. This has been a huge focus. It's actually what we've had. I think we've done a couple of videos on this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We were just kind of getting into some ancillary services that we were launching last year too. So we started offering, snow removal, lawn maintenance, things that we could actually charge a markup on to our management clients. That was just kind of in its infancy last year. We'll talk about that more next year. But again, you want to have a diversified business. You can actually have a lot of different revenue centers within a short-term rental business, not just earning the nightly rate that you can charge a guest.
So there's the upfront cost, which is the nightly rate, but there's so much more on the back end as well, which can really, again, it's an all-encompassing business, right? So it's looking at all facets and how to really increase revenues in all areas.
So you can see, like, we have this line item out by platform, but if we were to roll all that up last year, it was $2.6 million. Okay, now, granted, this is just in our management business. We have other entities comprising properties we personally own or have ownership in with partners, okay? So 2.6 million. Now let's get into the subtractions, okay? Obviously, it'd be wonderful if we could just pocket all that money and not have to pay anyone, right? But that's not reality, and that's not how business works, okay? So cost of goods. So here are some of the inputs that went into this revenue, okay? So obviously got to pay our cleaning staff, our lovely team that make sure.
The biggest expense is a lot of the cleaning.
We pay a lot on cleaning, and we're actually really proud of how much we do pay, because there's also a lot of people in our industry. There's content around how you can pay cleaners as little as possible. But then when you actually go and look at the reviews on those hosts, it's interesting.
It's telling, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not super host status. It really affects everything. If you're not staying in a consistent, clean property, it's just going to kill you on reviews, and people aren't going to. It filters into everything. So we pay a living wage, right? Yeah. And there are eyes and ears on the property, so it's very important.
And absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I did the same thing. I always felt like my cleaner was the top person to take care of, and then I get priority treatment too. I'm the one that she fills her schedule with first. Hey, people are asking me, do you have any dates I need to put in? And that worked out really well. I think I was up to 45 an hour, which I think was crushing most of the people in the industry, but it's worth it, and if truth be told, if you run your property the right way, your guest is paying for it anyhow. So for them to get the best experience, they should expect for you to treat your team members right, because they want the cleanest property possible to stay in. So I never had anybody kick back on it.
No, 100% right. So obviously that's a major line item. We spent almost $275,000 on it last year, right? Supplies, you're going to have your inputs like shampoos, toilet papers, paper towels, you name it, right?
Supplies went up crazy with inflation.
Inflation's been crazy.
But it's the reality of it.
It is the reality, yeah.
When you're looking at it, especially here in Canada, it's just been kind of wild.
Okay. Property management software. So that's like your dynamic pricing tools, your cleaning scheduling softwares, your financial tools, like all of those different things that typically get charged out on a per listing basis. You got to account for that, right? Then you have the commissions. Okay. So you'll notice that up here, we were spending a lot of time trying to get our direct booking revenue up. Matt, when I saw this number last year and this year, this is why. Okay. I'll get to that in just a sec. We paid the OTA sites, so the online travel agencies, over $117,000.
That's in fees.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
That's just fees.
Just as fees.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Rent. So again, in our portfolio, it's comprised of rental, arbitrage, and management. Okay,
and
the ones,
ownership.
well,
So
the
those
one,
are the three.
true. The ones we have ownership, those are in different entities, but that's
Correct.
a whole other thing. Okay, all right, let's keep going. So some subcontractors. We have someone that just helps us in our internal systems. We have VAs that we have on staff. So if you take all that off, now we're down to 1.9. Okay, it doesn't,
It doesn't stop there.
It doesn't stop there. That'd be great. That'd be great.
Never does.
Keep all that. Okay. So let's just kind of run through this really quickly. So accounting software, we just use QuickBooks. Yeah. We show our clients how to do it. We were doing some testing. We were running some ads to try to get some direct bookings. So that was just some fun stuff we were doing. Without going through this in like exhaustive detail, here's our wage. So we take we personally like to take a salary out of our company, which we always advise, your time is worth something, right? So you should be paying yourself from your business, okay? So total expenses, if you take all of that, again, everything there, 585 grand, okay? So if I go all the way to the bottom here, let's see. Oh yeah, management fees. Obviously we have to pay out our partnership clients.
Partners. Yep.
Okay.
So that's for the management contract that we'll go over in detail as well, just to break down how that kind of works. But that is what we're paying partners. Everyone, we're saying what we're making in our business, but this is what we're making for other people, which is incredible to see that line item there. Okay.
So after we take all that off, last year we finished off at 428, which is 16%. Okay. Not too bad. Okay. We'll get into 2023 in a second, but, for a business in an industry where everyone was crying the blues and saying there's no more money to be made here, not too shabby. Okay?
Not bad. Not bad in any business, honestly, to have a profit of 428K is fantastic. I mean, that's $1 million+ business in almost any industry with the best possible profit margins you could expect. So that's terrific.
Okay? 2023 was a tougher year for sure. Okay. Yeah. We had to work a little bit harder in order to.
So this is the year of Airbnb bust.
Yeah.
This is the year of interest rates going. This is the recession coming in. This is the rooster came to roost. Like everything was happening in 2023 with it.
Exactly.
And, you look at it and you're like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we change? And that's really what we focused on because we still wanted to grow and scale just to the right properties, the right team members. It was just kind of honestly a big refresh on our business this year, which was incredible. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was painful. We put a lot of work into it because we had to revamp a lot of the strategies that we were doing.
Well, and what we noticed too is like by the time we got to around 50, 60 properties, it was really challenging. Like, a lot of our days would get spent with, just trying to bring on people, trying to get them trained. It's gone a lot from like external things to internal things. So we had to learn a lot this last year and how we actually make that transition. But if we're just kind of comparing year over year, so if I go back up here, so this is 2022. We had pretty good growth in our direct booking revenue. So we went from like 700 to over $1 million.
So that was a huge focus of this past year.
Yeah.
It was not to be reliant on the OTAs and really just getting more direct and midterm and long-term rentals.
Now, as you'll notice here, this is January to November because as of right now, we're just about at the end of the year. Okay. So we could do a little bit of forecasting on this revenue, but this is a full year. This is, roughly 11 months. Okay. But you can see from 2022, we went from like 1.1 on Airbnb to 1.4. So we had some decent lift on a few line items. So one thing I want to draw some attention to, we made a few small changes that actually added like tens of thousands of dollars of pure profit to our business. And I'll show you how that happened. Okay. One of the things we did in 2023, we started making a lot more of our properties pet friendly. Now, this could be a huge pain in the ass for people. It's like, oh, there's so much additional cleaning. What if they wreck my stuff? Speaking from experience, that happens a very, very minuscule amount of time. But let me just show you what happened here. So just in pet fees for 2023 alone, we brought in almost $19,000. Okay. That's almost pure profit to the business, okay? Service fee income, so that's like early check-in, late checkout, additional guest fees, things like that. So if you put those two things together, that was almost an extra $30,000 to the business. So not too shabby, right?
So this is where we're focusing on the back end, right? Like you get the customer at the front end, and then how can you make more of the margins on the back end. Pet fees, guest extensions is huge. Like any of those kind of like income profit centers are massive, and that was a big focus for 2023.
Okay, so again, as I mentioned, this is just our management business. We're not including properties that we own. So we had a lift from like 2.6 million to 3.3. Now, granted, we still have December's numbers to come.
Yeah.
Right.
So roughly speaking, that's one of our best months of the year. Summer's obviously the best,
but Christmas is Christmas.
Christmas is Christmas, okay? So we anticipate in this entity, we'll finish off probably at around 3.6. Now, if I were to add on our other business entities, like I said, we were shooting for 5. We didn't quite hit it this year, okay? We were probably in the mid 4s. If I was to
I think it's about 4.4 to 4.5 altogether for all of them,
But we'll tell you why, right?
Yeah.
So let's just get into that. So that's income, okay? Now again, let's do the subtraction on that. So again, we have other expenses in here. So we have garbage disposal, maid service, as you can see, that's come up a bit. That's almost $300,000 this year. Repairs and maintenance, lawn and snow, all these different subcontractors, rent, property management softwares. I pay, every time I look at this, I just throw up in my mouth. We paid $140,000 this year just in commissions to the OTA site. So, ouch, right?
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay. So we're at a gross profit of just shy of 2.4. Okay. We had a few other team members on here as well. So you can see here from year over year, we made a big investment in our Virgin team.
Yeah.
Okay. So that jumped from, what did I have last year? 27 to 83.
Yeah.
So we actually hired a lot more people this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep moving here. Again, we have our accounting software. We have advertising, and we're just running some tests on various things that we're doing. We've actually invested in ourselves quite a bit this last year too. We invested in our own coaching and education. You'll see a big line item here, and I probably glossed over it last year, $60,000 on insurance. We're personally big proponents in the whole infinite banking concept. I know VIP has done a ton of education and videos on that. So
that's just an investment.
It's kind of more of a transfer than an expense, but we leave it in. We just put it into the policy. It just earns us a little bit better yield. But anyways, wages, we hired more people locally as well. So that number is up year over year. Okay. So if I just go all the way down to the bottom, we actually finished off a little bit better this year. Okay. The way we did that though is we really controlled costs. When we did some analysis internally, there was a lot of slippage of things and it's easy to see because when you're building your business, you're just going. But when you finally slow down and you find out where you're leaking, it can be pretty revealing of how things can kind of shake out at the end of the year. But long story short, again, after we paid partners, so the amount we paid partners this year is obviously up year over year. We finished at around just shy of 650, which we actually did better in terms of overall percentage of our profits.
Right.
Year.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's really good.
That's the breakdown. It's really intense, and there's a lot of line items. So we want to show what it really looks like. Like we even have permits and licensing in here.
Yeah.
Of what things look like. It's like everything that really comes into a business of running it, and all the details, like garbage disposal, for heaven's sakes, is like 10K alone, right? But that's the reality of it. That's, in our city, like we have to have someone individually go and pick up garbage as it goes. And so like all these are the true expenses that we have on our end. Everything comes in. So here's the addition and the subtraction, and then the bottom line.
But it's also important to note that this is what's left over after you guys pay yourselves.
Right. So if I go up here, so here's our wages right here. So we take we take a fairly modest salary because again, obviously from a business standpoint, you pay less tax if it stays in the entity versus you pulling out as income, right? So we take enough to, have a comfortable living. Our staff is included in there as well. So we actually made some pretty big investments in personnel this year.
Which is, like I said, it was painful just internally because it was becoming really just running kind of by the seat of your pants by going to like SOPs, operating procedures, like figuring out how your business really runs without you. So that was an incredible investment. I like to say it's an investment we made in our business and just really having it run by itself truly.
So how much are you paying yourselves in wages does that compare to what you were earning when you were working at your jobs before you started doing this full time?
Yeah, so for full transparency, like again, we take a fairly modest wage. We each take $90,000 a year out of the business.
Yeah, and then bonuses as well.
And then bonuses as it makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
now as it relates,
and how does that compare to the jobs?
So when I was working full time, I was making like maybe 60 or 70.
Yeah, I was making
like
85.
Yeah.
But working 50 to 55 hours. We work in our business here maybe 2 hours a day, if that, when it really comes down to it. So it's like really gone down to part-time. So we're doing, you got to look at it by the hours. So we're almost having a similar salary by like 10 to 15 hours a week. When we're looking at it.
And you have the flexibility to pay yourselves more if you chose, because the money and profits are there to do that.
Yeah,
it's just from a tax planning standpoint that you're choosing not to, because it's unnecessary for your lifestyle and your costs of living, right? You just don't need the extra money.
Well, and that's just it. And
I don't like to pay the tax, like especially.
Exactly.
And we're in Canada too, so like the tax rates we have versus the United States, it's a very progressive system here. So like as you start getting into like multi 6-figure year income, it's ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it makes a lot more sense for us personally just to keep it inside the business and do as much as we can through the various entities that we own or have ownership in, than just taking a huge like personal income, if that makes sense. So
you guys obviously have the evidence that you're, obviously successful doing this. You pretty much wrote the blueprint on how to actually do a partnership. I haven't found people that taught that prior to you. I still haven't found people teaching it now. Like I mentioned on a previous video, I'm sure they probably exist somewhere, but they're not prevalent. And if people are talking about short-term rentals without having to own the home, without having to come up with the down payments and come up with the costs of furnishings and decor, and without having to be in charge of management and take out a 30-year mortgage, they're talking about arbitrage. And I know in your program, you do oftentimes recommend that people arbitrage potentially to begin with, to establish a reputation and to get a portfolio started, because it's a little easier to go out and present to a landlord, hey, I will rent your property from you. All I need is permission to sublet this on the short-term rental platforms. And here's the reasons why that's a good idea for you, right? And maybe I'll even pay you a little more than you're asking in order to do that. And so it is easier to lock in those agreements, I think, sometimes. And almost everybody I've spoken with from your program has shared that, including Wilson. He's like, I did 2 arbitrages first, and then everything after that is partnership. But you guys came along and said, listen, partnership is a new way of looking at arbitraging somebody's property, where you don't have to own it, you don't come up with the money down, and you also don't have to come up with a first month, last month, and security deposit as it would be required with a traditional lease. So I look at this and say, man, this is all really, truly incredible that you guys have practiced all this yourselves. You have a balance of arbitrage and partnerships. You've proven that you can do either one. You show people exact roadmap to get there. And now you're generating all this excess, surplus cash flow, where it's this massive liquidity. You run into the next problem of what the hell do we do with all this money, right? So you're able to buy your own properties now. And I like this model where you can sort of work your way up this ladder, where instead of starting with acquisition, where you're going to run into a shortage of capital very quickly, whether it be after 1 house or 2 or 3, eventually everybody's just out of money. You're starting with the short-term net cash flow solution first, and you're working your way up to building a huge amount of cash flow. So now you can safely acquire homes, and you can do it with bigger down payments so that these high interest rates are offset a bit. You can accelerate the payoff of the properties a lot more quickly than somebody that starts with buying these themselves would. So this program is just so logical to me every which way. And so how do you guys provide the solutions for people? Let's say I spend 10 grand and I get set up with your program, right? Give me a little bit of an idea of the framework behind what I can expect for my money.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Both her jump in. We're like, yes.
Ladies first.
So what I really like, just a few things just to touch base on what you're saying here. that really rung true is like, I think the biggest thing is the scalability of this. You're like, right, you're not like purchasing property by property. You can get stuck between 1 to 2 because, you know, credit, cash flow, any of that. And the other side of it is looking at the risk, right? Especially now with regulations coming in, policy changing, anything like that. When you're getting into these types of deals, having the right contract, having like this is what the coaching and training is about, right? It's like mitigating the risk when you're coming in, and this is why we coach and train specifically, because everyone's market's different, everyone's goals are different, what they can get into, and just like their point of where they're at, right? Like are you in California? Are you in, like, what kind of market are you in, right? We want to be able to help within that specific market to make sure you're making right decisions, you're playing the right sandbox, everything's above board, you have the right contract, and that's why it's really important. Someone coming in, they're coming in to make sure they're starting a business, and a business has off the right foundation, because a lot of people come into this industry. This is what we're hearing about the Airbnb bust. There's this huge flood of everyone coming in, but they didn't have that goal of long-term, you know, success into it, quick money fast, and they didn't have a good basis, you know, starting from, and that long-term vision. And we saw a lot of people come out of that with changes in market, changes in regulation, and they didn't really have the actual foundation.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I agree.
Just to answer your question more specifically too. So when someone first is invited into our training, we take a very concerted effort to get to understand where do they want to go, what's important to them, what are their goals. Once we have that kind of laid, then we just reverse engineer the math of like, okay, so you learning this skill now, how many times do you actually have to go and repeat that process in order to hit that outcome, right?
So we have set expectations clearly from the beginning. It's like, okay, you want to make $200,000 a month. What is that actually going to take? Like, let's make the math of this make sense. Like, make the math make sense here. That's what's
so
really...
if you're averaging like in a modest conservative expectation, 1,000 or 1,500 in profit in cash flow per property, to get to 100,000, you would need obviously 10 properties would put you at a $10,000 per month potential cash flow, right? And then you're at $120,000 per year. So if I'm looking for $100,000, I've exceeded that. A lot of people are just looking for a little bit of a nudge, right? Because a lot of the folks that I've spoken with, or people watching this channel, they may have this very sort of tight budget where they sort of feel like they're scraping by. And I know that's a lot of our country, probably a lot of your country as well. At the end of the day, people are just struggling to make ends meet. And so an extra $1,000 a month would be a game changer. An extra $2,000 a month would be a game changer. If you take $2,000 a month and just simply slap it against your debts, you can see the impact that just that minimal amount extra can make. Because as long as you're keeping your lifestyle the same way as it is now, that's pure profit. That's pure cash flow. You're not, as long as all the expenses have been covered, then that money can be used directly to grow and build with, which allows people to build for their future so much faster than they realize. And so, I personally think that getting people off the ground is probably the biggest concern for somebody that's listening to this and saying, I barely have 10 grand, right? Or I would need to borrow money to participate in this program, right? So how do I know that I'm going to be safe, and what could I really expect from that? Because I know you guys have this 90-day, kind of fast track process, right? Where you expect people to get their first deal within 90 days. And if every deal is accounting for $1,000 a month in excess cash flow that you didn't have before, you're technically paid back in 10 months, right? Plus the time that it took to get that first deal. So it might take 1 year to get your 10 grand back. That's 100% return on investment. Those are hard numbers to beat anywhere else you want to put your money, but it does take the work to do it, right?
I mean, other than maybe crypto recently, but that's also a fairly
don't tempt people. Don't tempt people. Yeah.
Well, I thought you brought up some really good points, man. And obviously anyone that's watching this, they might be sitting in a few different positions. They might be in a place where they make good income. They have, resources to deploy. They're just not sure what to do. Mm-hmm. Or it could be someone that has maybe a little bit more modest means, like ourselves when we first started. Well, when I say modest, we actually didn't have a pot to piss in. We were just
started in debt when we started, right?
Yeah, we had another business not work out, and we actually started our business off a $20,000 line of credit, and now scaled that up into something that's done over $10 million in the last 5 years for us. So,
is that hard for you guys to comprehend? Like when you hear yourself say that, was that because I'm sure that was so out of the realm of what your expectations were, having started in a position of being negative and having to borrow money to even get started in something. So you back then, of course, you certainly would have loved to know that this was going to be the outcome, and you were building for that to potentially happen. But I'm sure at the time it somewhat felt unimaginable. What does it feel like to say that now?
It wasn't our goal at all, to be honest with you. Like, if
our goal was to honestly replace our income. Actually, our first goal is to have
the first goal we had, because we were in not a great position. If I was just, because we were negative, so I was just like, if we could just be broke, like that'd be so nice.
Can we just be broke again and not in debt? Right.
Because nowadays, you can sail way past zero, right? Like they'll bury you. So we just wanted to get that under control, and then like
break even, and then let's go, right? Yeah. And I think
then replace income. And
I remember the first time we ever did $10,000 in a month, and it was just the most mind-blowing thing to me. It was
I think the mind-blowing component was controlling your own income. This is something we did, that we controlled, that we put our, it was just that direct correlation. And I think once you've tasted that, it, in a way it's addictive, right? You're I can do this from anywhere in the world. It's an evergreen strategy. I can do it from my home. I can do it from anywhere. I can build and scale this. And, it really just becomes a number game when you can do this, and what you put in is what you get out, which is an incredible thing. People in a 9-to-5 job, they might put in crazy hours, and it doesn't matter. It's just the salary, right? When it comes into, and you're not really
and at what rate do you get promoted or earn raises, right? You might earn an extra 3 on a realistic side, up to maybe 10% raise on a more generous end of things. And if you're making $100,000 a year and you get a 10% raise and can make another 10 grand, it helps, but $800 a month pales in comparison to you guys taking a business that nets you almost $500,000 a year in 2022 to a business that nets you over $600,000+ a year in 2023. Plus you're paying yourselves on top of that more than you were earning at your jobs. And I'm seeing a pattern when I talk to your students. A lot of them have full-time jobs, and I like emphasizing that because that's another concern I think a lot of people have. And Wilson was just telling me that he's got a 7-month-old baby now, and he's still working full-time at his job, and he's only working 15 to 20 hours a week on this job, and is going to hit $1 million top line in his business this year. It's absolutely astonishing to me that people wouldn't take the chance to get started in something like this. You really, I think, are missing out if you're doing it, if you're just stopping yourself because you're afraid. Fear is truly the biggest deal breaker, I think, for most people that would hear something like this. They're afraid that what you're saying isn't true, which is why I ask you to show us numbers. People are afraid that they can't do it, that the results other people are having is because they're better at it. These are average, everyday people with day jobs, people working normal careers that transitioned out. And I love that Oksana and Tara both had very normal. I mean, I think he was an executive for a sporting company. She's a nurse. These are hardworking people. It doesn't matter how old you are in this business either. It doesn't matter where you live, technically speaking. I think a lot of people focus in their geographical region to begin with, but I've run my short-term rental business from many states away for multiple years too. This is just it has so many pros and very few cons. And I think the biggest showstopper that you're going to run into is people don't want to fork over 10 grand to have you show them how to do it. And that is the most expensive thing people will choose, is to not give you 10 grand to have them provided the exact blueprint of how this should work. So, I can't stress enough for these guys. All we can do is keep showing testimonial videos of people that aren't just you having success with it, because you may be the anomaly, right? You guys figured it out. Congratulations. You're the artist of this approach in a lot of ways. But to be able to see it replicated with other people, and to see literally us proving on this channel that you're retiring people from their careers on a consistent basis is really exciting for me. So, you know, I don't want to belabor this video for too much longer, because I just think we could literally spend hours on this. I think what's best is for people to reach out and get your questions answered. And if they truly have additional questions, because I had even asked you to come in with a couple of specific properties today, but as long as you're reassuring me it's not unreasonable to think that you can exceed $1,000 a month in net cash flow on a single property, and replicating that as many times as you choose to in order to generate the ideal cash flow position for yourself is possible, as long as you're saying, yeah, that's realistic or even conservative, then folks can reach out to you and you can show them your own screenshots. You can text them and be like, look, here's an example. Here's 10 examples. Here's 60 examples of this being possible. So I know you're going to want to add something to that, but I feel like at this point, if people aren't seeing what they need to move forward, they're never going to.
Well, and I think if someone's in this place where they know this is for them, they want to get started, but you know, they just need a little additional nudge. We do have a few more examples we could show, Matt, and just like, I mean, we could talk. We could talk about it for
exactly.
hours.
We could talk about it. We could talk about it for literally another 3 hours.
Sure.
What we could also do is put together a montage of all the past videos from the past few years that we've created, where we've even dove into some of these numbers, and the numbers have only improved since then, right? So it's only gone up. There's not a single person listening to this that if you could show them how to make 150, 250, $500,000 a year, they're not in a much better position than they would be in right now, and likely have complete control over their choices during the day, especially their schedule. There's very few people listening to this that are thinking that would not change their lives. And you're proving already that you can do that. And so have the most recent guests we've had on. I'll put a playlist in the description as well, so people can check that out. The number one next step is to get your own personal questions answered, because anything you show me right now, Michael, is not going to be a specific question that somebody has. They don't have specific questions about these individual properties. They're thinking, well, how does this work if I live in this location? How does this work if I can't answer the phone during the day? How does this work if I have children at home I'm taking care of? How does it, there's questions to their individual circumstances. Totally. So let's give the email address one more time. People reach out, check in, see if it's for you. If it's not a good fit, they'll tell you they don't think it's a good fit for you. If you have concerns about things that maybe you think is not a good fit for you, they'll tell you whether they agree or not. And look, it's a new year. Let's make it the best year yet. And I love that Wilson came on and showed in his first full year, he's looking at $1 million top line. That's unbelievable. And so there's so much that can happen throughout the course of 2024 where you can set yourself up to be safe with so much uncertainty that's happening. And with this model, there really is no less risky way of being involved, in my opinion, in real estate than what they're showing. This is the least risky way of being involved in real estate. And it's not going to be without time and potentially some money, but compare it to what I did. I went out and bought my first short-term rental property and spent $225,000 to do that. So, and we've talked about that before. I asked you, how many properties do you think I could have done if I did it your way with that money? And you were like, $1 million. I'm like, damn it. You're like unlimited, because you would have never had to do it beyond the first, couple tens of thousands that you maybe had to put in. But anyhow, yeah, I did it wrong. They did it right. I'm willing to admit it. I admit it every time. And I appreciate you guys coming on and rubbing it in my face every chance you get. And you guys email them. They're great, great coaches, super big hearts, super authentic and genuine people that don't need your money. And those are the types of people that you should be willing to give your money to if they're willing to help you, because they're not desperate and they make their money doing what they teach you, not what they're selling you. So email STR Wealth at VIPfinancialeducation.com. First name, last name, phone number in the description. And they'll get you what you need to get on a call and have a conversation and try to make it your best year ever. Right, guys? Best year ever? 2024?
Hey, man. New year, new you. As they say.
That's right. That's right. Well, and it's been a pretty good, handful of years for you guys. You continually, that trajectory, and you'll break 10 million this year.
the level that honestly, the level we're investing in our team, like this was the consolidation year. 2023, 2024 is the expansion. So you know, every business goes through the contractions and expansion, right?
Well, it's more of like the growth versus optimization. So last year I would say was a highly optimized year, I would say, because within that, we didn't really get to it today, but like, you know, we got rid of properties that didn't make sense anymore. We got rid of clients we just like were not fun to deal with. You know, when I think of
headache to income ratio, we talk about that often.
Major factor. Very good to bring that up, because there is a huge factor in that for people that grow their, you know, once you're in the growth phase of your business, you start to learn very quickly. Yeah, I mean, what they say is true. You know, 20% of your efforts produce 80% of what your results. So figure out what the other 80% is and get rid of it as fast as possible, and continue to optimize. So it's a good point to bring up. And guys, it's true. Just get on the phone and see what it sounds like. Talk to these guys for yourself. Watch the videos in the description. There's so much great information in there. So many more details behind how this system works, what they actually are providing for the price they're selling it for, as well as additional testimonial after testimonial of people that are killing it and can validate exactly what they're buying. And so, yeah, with that being said, I guess we'll put a pin in it, and we can definitely bring you guys back on here real soon to start off this year and really try to get as many people over to you this 2024 as we can, because I just think people will really, really continue to benefit from you. And I just love seeing the results myself, because it makes me feel good. Like we did the right thing by introducing you. So
yeah,
I appreciate you guys. Yeah, you guys too.
We really appreciate it. And your channel and your students that you have that work with us are incredible, right? They're at a point where they're ready to change their lives and they're ready to go along for the ride and actually do something different. So 2024.
That's so true. Everybody that we bring to our audience says the same thing about our audience. They're just a different breed. They're usually just, I think, a little bit more mature in their decisions at that point. They really have a little higher level of commitment than maybe other sources of leads, I guess you would call it. And so we get that same compliment often. So that goes out to you guys, the viewers. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the channel. As always, make sure you subscribe. We're always here for you to get as much information to beat this system. I personally think is designed to work against us. It is designed to trap us, and you are, you know, you're going to be pushed to being broke if you follow what the system is built to do. So break free of it. It's your choice. And until we see you on the next video, thank you guys for joining me again here today. And we'll see all of you guys again here soon. So make it a great day today and keep on cash flowing. Take care.